Hello, my name is John Chen. My partner is Jungyun Choi, and we're working on Norp server code migration from Django to Node.js. For the background, what is Norp? Norp is a nonprofit organization research panel with the objective to conduct research to support nonprofit organizations' management for their effective and efficient data platform for them to collect and share data and the impacts of their nonprofit. Norp is currently an interdisciplinary collaboration between Georgia Tech and nonprofit research of American University, George Mason, and Urban Institute. Currently, the Norp server architecture is the backend is written in Django, the front end is in React, and the database is MySQL. For our motivation, currently the Norp platform's backend architecture is written in Django, and Django is an open source web framework platform that already includes the features of user authentication, user management, and common security checks like SQL injection and clickjacking. Node.js is more of an asynchronous event-driven JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 engine. The reason why we change from Django to Node.js is that it's easier to get started and it's easier to learn for new developers and it's used more frequently than Django. And also features in Django can be tightly coupled with its model view template format like Django two-factor authentication. But for Node.js, the user will have to manually specify the security features such as like checking for SQL injection. For the related works, there are many studies conducted by researchers who could use the visualization and insights that Norp website offers. For example, when examining the relationship between census data and the number of nonprofit organizations, researchers can use the Norp's metabase integration to query tables into visual pie charts and graphs to distinctly show a positive or negative correlation. Furthermore, with Norp's database functionalities, researchers can use scatter plots to see if the financial health or income of a nonprofit correlates with the nonprofit success. Previously, Norp teams have worked on exploring metabase data visualization and database manipulation and cleaning functionalities. Utilizing U.S. Census and nonprofit IRS data to perform complex SQL queries on metabase, such as the ratio of nonprofit to population by state, revenue profit versus medium zip code income. In addition, storing data after data cleaning and filtering were also illustrated by Norp sample resources. For the backend, past Norp teams have worked on backend authentication and access control with the integration of Google Data Studio and Google Sign-In, authentication using Django default server user model and Django CRUD operations to host instructional media and videos on the website. Users also have done two-factor authentication with integrations with Twilio Verify, Google Authenticator, and Django two-factor authentication. For the proposed work, our main goal is to translate the Norp Django backend to a Node.js backend with its current functionalities and new functionalities. First, we'll have to map the Django API call format to the Node.js API call format. We'll also have to make sure the URL format of Django gets translated to the Node.js format. If we're using Node.js to Express.js, the URL path will be expressed using the router class. The Django models will become Node.js classes, so graph and video models in Django will be Node.js graph and video classes. Also for Node.js, we will need to use a package manager such as npm or yarn to install third-party packages, unlike Django, which uses Python pip. User input will have to be sanitized with a sanitized node package, or if we use framework like Express.js, we can use Express built-in validation of input. For the Django views, which are the business logic of the models, which are requests hitting the API endpoints, if we use the Express framework in Node.js, the format of the API request is shown in the black image. In the image, the router class posts to a URL path of dynamic ID a function callback, which takes in the parameters request, response, and next. Next stands for the next middleware to be in the call stack. As you see here in the last line, rest.json is the response to the API request of the user, which is in the JSON format, and that returns the request.body, which is just returning request.body back to the API caller. However, in Django, in the current date function, it takes in a request, and the return is a HTTP object response for HTML. For MySQL connections, Node.js does not have a Node MySQL built in, so we'll have to install it with npm. We use the latest stable version of the MySQL, and the SQL queries is still the same format as Django. Also, we noticed that the host email, password, and social auth Google authentication and secret keys are located in a settings Python file. While migrating to Node.js, we'll have to use a env private confidential file to put these environmental variables in. We'll also test the front end of our Norp app to make sure the Node.js backend API works with the React front-end request. And that's all for our proposed work. I'll pass it on to Junyun for the schedule of work.
Here is our planned schedule of work divided in weeks. The first week, we will refresh our memories on both Django REST framework and Node framework, reviewing important concepts and conventions in both frameworks. By looking over the documentations, will help us understand the current code better and communicate better with other Norp backend team members. Next, we'll start migrating the code base from Django to Node with other Norp backend team members. We'll work on things stated from the last slide, which will be models, views, API call formats, URL formats, database configurations such as MySQL, perhaps more if other issues arise. We are looking to complete the migration from Django to Node in the first 4 weeks. This allows more time to improve the code quality and add more documentation while migrating, not just doing the migration in a speedy fashion. We will try to refactor the code base to a more coherent structure and add more documentation while doing the migration. After we are done migrating, we will try to work on other tasks that need our help, such as making new components on the front end using React, adding additional functionalities on the back end on Node, or integrating new data source to expand the datasets using Python and MySQL. Our deliverables will be a working translated Node.js backend that fully functions with the front end for the Norp website, translation of Django models to Node.js classes, translation of Django URLs to Node.js/Express router, and finally, a translation of Django views to Node.js/Express API call format. Our future work for working in the Norp website may or may not include D3.js charting, which is a JavaScript library for manipulating documents based on data. It may help for better visualizations, and it is a widely used tool in the industry, popular for its visualization techniques. Another future work may include real-time data collection used by nonprofits with surveys, Node.js backend security for security reasons, and finally, an improved code quality and better documentation for easier maintenance for future developers. When the website server finishes migrating from Django to Node, all the while improving the code quality and documentation for future developers, we hope the website will be easier for us and future developers to maintain and develop upon. Thank you.